Hi, I'm Brendan. I am the Scoutmaster of Troop 3 in Ayer. I'm also an Eagle Scout from Troop 3 Ayer. My regular job is that I'm a full-time firefighter and paramedic here at the Ayer Fire Department. So I'm helping out and giving the virtual tour today since we can't travel to the Jaffrey Fire Station this year due to COVID restrictions. So we're going to start off in we call it our alarm room. So this is our dispatch room. We are dispatched by the Ayer Police Department dispatchers, but we are capable of dispatching ourselves as a redundancy or in case of an emergency or a big event like a major storm or something like that where there may be too many calls coming in. So 911 calls don't ring here, but fire alarms from like commercial buildings, for like if your school fire alarm goes off, it automatically sends a signal to the fire department. Those type of alarms are received here automatically. So if you can come over here, you can see the dispatch equipment. We've got a number of computer workstations. Some of them are just normal computer workstations, but several are related directly to radios and the alarm box system. So all that is here. This is kind of our main area of the station where we are during the day, where we do our reports for ambulance calls and fire runs and things like that. So that's the alarm room, and we'll take a walk down the rest of the hallway. All right. So this hallway on the first floor is kind of our administrative area of the fire station. On the right here we have the fire chief's office where he conducts all his work, make sure the department's running smoothly. On the left is kind of a utility space with a photocopier and supplies, the mailboxes, things like that. We have a conference room that we use for training, meetings, anything like that. Our fire prevention officer's office is here. This is where he conducts plan reviews of new developments, new construction, anything like that going on in town. The deputy chief's office is here. The deputy chief assists with the administrative functions of the department, also oversees a lot of the EMS and ambulance work. And then the shift commander's office is here. So each of the 4 shift captains has their own desk that they can work at and kind of leave their projects at as they go. And then in the back hallway here, we've got our large training room, which features seating for 35 or 40 people. This is where our scout troop normally meets. And so we've got a large training space here that we can use for, any sort of large classroom presentations, anything like that. So we live in the fire station for 24-hour shifts. Our shifts run 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. So we take our meals here. In a typical shift, we will have all 3 meals here. Sometimes we do order out from any number of local places, but we do a lot of cooking ourselves. So we have a fully equipped commercial kitchen here with a large stove and a griddle and all that, and a dining area here. We can there's only 3 firefighters on duty on a 24-hour shift, but during the day, there's normally 6 personnel here with the chief, the deputy chief, and the fire prevention officer. So lunch is usually, a crowded social affair, and the other meals are varying degrees of smaller. Each shift has their own refrigerator, so that the intention was to minimize the theft of condiments and things like that. It hasn't worked, but we all have our own fridge and our own freezer, and each shift has a cabinet to store their dry goods, their cereal and sauces and things like that in. So. That, for the most part, takes care of our needs for eating on duty. Most of us try to eat kind of healthy, just due to the nature of our work. But we do most of our own meal prep. Some of the guys are really good chefs. Some of the guys think they're really good chefs. Some guys know they can't cook. But so this is our kitchen and dining area. This is what we call our day room. It's more or less our living room. It's the most comfortable room in the station, and ironically also the one we spend the least amount of time in. We generally start our day here. We have morning coffee from shift change at 6:30 till 7:15 and watch the news, the weather, and then we start our day and go about our truck checks and cleaning and daily routine. But we don't, by contract, we don't come back in here until after 4 p.m. at the end of the quote-unquote work day. We can come back in here. So unless it's a weekend or a holiday or something like that, you typically won't find anyone here during the day, which is ironic since we call it the day room. But there's a little bit more comfortable furniture and things like that, a large TV that was purchased by the members. And it's a nice space to relax in between calls if you have time. So this entire hallway is bunk rooms. There are 5 bunk rooms. Now, I said earlier there's only 3 firefighters on duty. They did plan for some future expansion when they designed this fire station. So we've got 5. We do use the 4th and 5th ones occasionally if we're expecting a severe snowstorm or something like that. We'll put some extra staffing on to cover that time. But we each have a private bunk room so that you don't have to listen to somebody else snoring, or if members of a shift go to bed at different times, which is pretty common, you're not disturbing the other members when you come to bed later or anything like that. So if you want to take a peek in here, this is the captain's or shift commander's bunk room. But they're all pretty much the same. This one is slightly larger. Each member has their own closet inside the bunk room that they can use to store their uniforms and bedding and things like that. So as we walk on down the hall, there's locker rooms. There's men's and women's locker rooms here, and that's to facilitate showering. People have a locker to keep all their their shower accessories and stuff in, shaving equipment, stuff like that. When we sometimes do work back-to-back 24-hour shifts on because of overtime. So typically members would need to shave and shower in between that. We also shower after every fire. One of the leading causes of death in the fire service is cancer, and a lot of that comes from exposure to products of combustion. So one of the newer things that we're hyper aware of is after every fire, everybody comes, takes a shower, puts on a clean uniform, and gets any of those, any sooty or dirty clothing off and away from them. So that's basically what's up here. This is we call this our dormitory area or a living space area. So it's the bunk rooms, the kitchen, the living room, and the locker rooms. So. All right, this is our fitness room or our gym, used by a lot of the members, both on and off duty, as well as our call department members. We have a range of fitness equipment here so that we can keep healthy, get strong. Some guys take that to various extremes, but a nicely appointed gym. All this equipment has been purchased by the members themselves or through the association or the union. The town has not really funded this equipment. They built the room for us, and we have filled it up with equipment, sometimes secondhand, sometimes new. We're very opportunistic, but we have a nice array of commercial gym equipment here for the members to use. All right, so we're out here on the apparatus floor. We're lucky to be doing this tour today on the one day of the year that we're resealing the floors, so that's an adventure you'll get to see in a minute. Right here are our two primary pumper trucks, Engine 2 and Engine 4. Engine 2 is brand new. It was delivered last fall of 2020. It has a 1,500 gallon per minute pump for water, carries 750 gallons of water on board. It has 1,200 feet of supply hose to connect to a hydrant to get water to put on, to put through the smaller hoses onto the fire. And it's got an array of smaller hoses that we would use called attack lines that we would take inside of a burning building or use from the outside, as well as the large deck gun mounted on top. Engine 2 is the first due truck that goes out to basically all calls other than ambulance calls. If it's any sort of a fire alarm, a car crash, any sort of what we would call a fire call, Engine 2 is the primary truck that goes. We do have one other pumper truck, Engine 3, which is the old Engine 2. It's actually stored in Westford, and it's kind of a spare for the towns around here as well as us. So we would call it a district spare. The Engine 3 is 20 years old. It was in this front position for its entire life up until last fall, and it is very tired. So that's why it went to that kind of spare reserve position. Engine 4 in the back there is actually a 1993. It's actually the oldest truck here, but it only spent a few years in the front before it was replaced, so it is in much better overall condition. It was also refurbished 5 or 7 years ago, so it got a kind of a complete mechanical checkup and go through and new paint and things like that. So that should last us several more years. It's due for replacement soon, but that should last us a few more years. Behind me is Service 1. This is one of our other busier trucks. This pickup truck we use for errands, essentially. When we have to go take fire alarm systems on and offline, we unlock locked cars, like if you lock your keys in your car. That's one of the tasks we do here at the Ayer Fire Department. So this is the truck that goes to those calls, which we do quite a few of. And other non-emergency service calls, we often take the pickup truck. The reason for that is that Engine 2 here costs about $600,000. The pickup truck costs about $50,000. So if we have to replace this on a shorter interval, it's much less of an investment for the town to have to replace a pickup truck than to replace a large fire engine like this. Behind that, if we kind of meander back here, we have our two forestry units or brush trucks. These are designed, as the name implies, for forest and brush fires. Forestry 1 is a 2005, I think, Ford with a custom-built body on the back with a pump. Has a 500 gallon per minute pump and a 500 gallon water tank. This truck is designed to go on roads, some sort of established, like maybe the roads at camp would be a good example, but this is not going down any trails or anywhere really off-roading. It doesn't have good ground clearance or anything like that. Forestry 2 is our old service truck. It's a pickup truck. It's a little bit smaller, lighter, more maneuverable. It has a 250-gallon tank and a 300-gallon per minute pump. And that can get into some tighter spots and all that. So these two trucks see a lot of use in the spring and summer with brush fires. Often those are caused by irresponsible campfires or irresponsible burning of yard waste and brush. It's the largest cause of brush fires in Massachusetts in the month of April is improper use of permit fires to burn brush. So this year we were fairly lucky, but in a normal year we're pretty busy with brush fires as a result of brush burning. So always be careful. I know scouts, we learn a lot and we kind of harp on safe outdoor fires, and there's a reason for that because most people don't pay attention to those rules. So be good scouts, pay attention to those outdoor fires, keep these trucks in the station where they belong. These are our busiest two pieces of equipment right here. Our two ambulances do the lion's share of our calls, our medical calls. So they are out multiple times every day. Well, certainly the front line truck is out multiple times every day. The second ambulance typically goes out if we have two medical calls at the same time, which happens about once or twice a week every week with pretty good regularity. So we run both of these ambulances at the paramedic level, meaning that we can administer IVs, all sorts of different medications. We can insert breathing tubes. We can perform advanced defibrillation and other cardiac procedures, as well as advanced cardiac monitoring. And we can do a lot more than like a regular EMT level ambulance. In fact, we provide that advanced life support service to many of the surrounding towns. And that makes up a good chunk of our calls is actually going out of town for those more serious ambulance calls, chest pain, shortness of breath, strokes, trauma, things like that. So I alluded earlier to, we have coffee in the morning and then we perform our daily routine. Well, typically the first part of that is to do the checklist on the ambulance because you want to make sure that nothing is missing that you might need if an emergency call comes in. But after the ambulances and the fire engine are checked, the next thing we do is actually clean the station. So this building opened 15 years ago and it looks pretty close to new. And we work hard to keep it that way. We every day we empty the trash, we sweep the floors, and we clean all the bathrooms and toilets. We have different jobs, the floors get mopped and vacuumed once a week. Today we're lucky enough to witness something that only happens once a year, which is the sealing of the concrete floors out here in the apparatus bay. So Captain Shea is actually applying a sealer wax to the floors to help keep them in good condition. We anticipate being in this station for somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 plus years, so we want to keep it as nice as we can for as long as we can so that the investment to the town stays in good shape and doesn't need to be replaced prematurely. So we've got some of the apparatus pulled out and we do this in sections, and he's sealing the floor right now. All right, so I apologize. I hope you can hear me over the traffic out here. Behind me is ladder one. Ladder one's 1996. It's a 75-foot tall aerial ladder. Meaning the ladder on top of the truck is 75 feet high or has 75 feet of horizontal reach. This truck is also equipped with a pump. It's what's called a quintuple combination, meaning it has a pump, a water tank, an aerial ladder, ground ladders, and hose. So it has a 1,250 gallon per minute pump and a 500 gallon water tank. Ladder one responds second due to most fire calls. So alarm activations, fires, anything like that, chimney fires. The ladder truck is the second truck to go, hopefully with a full crew of recall personnel. We are a combination department, so we have our full-time staff that are on duty 24/7, but our off-duty full-timers as well as our call firefighters respond when we have fire calls and certain other types of calls, and they staff the majority of the apparatus. So they make up, the call firefighters think of as volunteers, but they are paid for their services. They're paid for the hours that they work, I think quarterly. So this truck behind me is Rescue 1. Rescue 1 carries a lot of our specialized equipment for things like water rescues, vehicle extrications if there's a serious car crash, collapse rescue, things like that, rope rescue, all those sort of unusual things that we're called upon to do that aren't really in our frontline trucks. The rescue truck is essentially a large toolbox that brings all those things to the scene. Now this does respond to fire calls. It's the fourth truck to go. It has, air packs and firefighting equipment on it in addition to all that specialized rescue equipment. This truck is 2015. It's relatively new. replaced a 1988 truck that did the same job, but we had outgrown it. It was too small. So this one should stand us in good stead for many years to come. I'd like to thank everybody for watching this video, and I hope you got something out of it. I hope you benefited from it or learned something. If you have any questions, you can always, I'll be at camp week 4, hopefully, but you can always drop into your local fire station and ask. They love to have you. Or you can certainly get in contact with me through the camp, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.